people, and welcome to a little video. Today I'll be discussing the various villains. I think I got like 7 that who I want to return in Series 12 or just in future series with the 13th Doctor. So yeah, Series 11 was a thing. It was a thing that we all saw and we all know happened. But yeah. So in terms of villains, I think was the weakest part of Series 11. And it's not that having new villains is really an issue. It's just having new villains that suck is the issue. So yeah. So right now we got returning villains. I got a little list here. I got 1 from the Moffat era, 3 from the classic era, 4 actually from the classic era, 1 from the RTD era, and a couple from the spin-offs, and of course 1 or 2 from Series 11. So let's get started with my first one, which I don't think is very obvious to a lot of people, and technically wasn't really a villain, wasn't even a character, it was a thing, is the Psychic Pollen from Amy's Choice. Now, you're probably wondering, why do I want these to return? Well, you see the thing with, I just watched Amy's Choice too, so it's definitely fresh in my brain, is that, like, the one thing with, like, the 13th Doctor is that she doesn't have that darkness. Like, pretty much every single Doctor, from, like, okay, maybe not all of them, but, like, most of them, like, I think from maybe Tom onwards, I could see all of them as like a gigantic supervillain, destroyer of the universe type of character. Like, I could see all of them as an actual villain if something wrong happened. I mean, Capaldi we straight up saw as the villain in Hellbent. So yeah, but we haven't had that with 13. So I think it would be pretty interesting for an episode to have the Psychic Pollen return. And basically what the Psychic Pollen did was it took all the evil in people and give them like a body or whatever that you see and interact with in a dream state. So what I want is that to happen. It's set entirely on the TARDIS. They wake up for, like, I don't know, episode 4 or whatever. They wake up, they're on the TARDIS, all 4 of them. And there's like evil doppelgangers of the Doctor, Graham, and either Ryan and Yaz. Not all of them though. I think Ryan potentially should not have an evil doppelganger. He should be like the Amy and Roy, where he's so like he has no evil in him. He has no badness, no darkness in him. So maybe Yaz. One of them. I don't really know. One of them, they have no darkness in them, and they're like the key as to whether or not they can succeed. Now, obviously, twist of the Psychic Pollen. Oh, everything is a dream, so we should just kill ourselves. Obviously, I feel like the writers should be talented enough to know how to pull it off. Like, pull off another episode with the Psychic Pollen that isn't like, well, why don't you just kill yourself? You'll be out of the dream. But I'm assuming they'll be smart enough to come up with a simple way out of that. But I think it would be really good, specifically so we could see, like, we could feel like that, the depth and the nuance of the 13th Doctor, because she hasn't had that. She's really just docile some of the time, and sometimes she gets aggressive and stuff, but it doesn't ever feel like she's getting aggressive. You know, like, the most aggressive, you know, like, hardcore thing she did was, like, break that guy's vortex manipulator. So, it's, you know, yeah, but I think the Psychic Pollen should return so that we could see a darker side of the Doctor, potentially. I think that would be a pretty interesting idea. Next up, I have, from the classic series, I have the Silurians and the Sea Devils just bunched into one. So, Sea Devils, I think, since, you know, New Who started, pretty much people have been asking for Sea Devils to come back and stuff. And Chibnall was the man who brought back the Silurians into the show, into New Who in hungry earth and cold blood, and he himself left an opening for an episode or story down the road. So basically, at the end, they were like, okay, you guys go back into your cryostasis thing and set an alarm for 1,000 years. In 1 millennium, in 3020, you need to get Earth ready so that when the Solarians wake up, they can come in, and then they can just come in and just get some land, and you can coexist and stuff like that. So I think it would be pretty interesting to have that, where they go back, they go to, that time period, 1,000 years in the future. They see society or whatever getting ready for the Solarians or something like that, or like the Solarians come back and like humans aren't ready, or even something like I think in like fourth Ark in Space. I can't remember when exactly Ark in Space takes place and like the Centauran experiment, but I'm pretty sure at some point between like now and those stories, the Earth gets like destroyed. So maybe if that is the case, if it was during this time period, they wake up and see like Earth is a desolate wasteland or something like that. And then on top of that, you have the Sea Devils come in and like they join forces with the Solarians and stuff like that. Could have some interesting stories there. Obviously, you don't just need to use that specific setting of like the 1,000 years in the future, whole like human Solarian coexisting thing. You could just have another episode with the Solarians or something like that. But definitely, maybe don't even have the Solarians. Just specifically the Sea Devils, the big one. Like I think should come back, because I think they're like the last villains from Classic Who that like group of villains like aliens and stuff like that hasn't come back in full force yet. Like we've had the Ice Warriors, we've had Centaurus, we had all of them. And I think like they're the last bunch where you could bring them back and it would make sense. At least I think so. I haven't seen all of Classic Who, obviously, but yeah. So Solarians and Sea Devils should come back. Next up, from the RTV era, because we've already had the Judoon, right? So another one from the RTV era I think would work well in a future series. Should come back. They should have come back by now. Are the Reapers from Father's Day. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. Paradox happens, Reapers come in, shenanigans ensue. It's fairly simple. Like you don't need this. Like it isn't a difficult task to bring them back. Obviously, you'd have to make the story interesting and unique and stuff. But yeah, they're so obvious. Why haven't they been brought back yet? It was a gold mine. Just a paradox happens. Reapers come in. What? They may have come back as like a cameo in Wedding of River Song, but I don't think in any other episode they've like returned. So I think it would just make a lot more sense to bring them back. So just quickly, Reapers. Next up, back into Classic Who, we have the Centaurans. Basically just make the Centaurans good again. Basically, the Paternoster gang and just the Moffat era in general just like ruined a bunch of villains. Like the Centaurans and the Solarians got ruined with the Paternoster gang, and then you had Handles from Time of the Doctor. That kind of, it didn't necessarily ruin the Cybermen, because obviously their future episodes they were great in. Death in Heaven and then Dr. Falls and stuff were great, and they had the Cybermen in them, but Handles kind of made them into a bit of a joke. Just that episode in general, like the wooden Cybermen and stuff like that was like, so yeah, Centaurans. I mean, bring them back, do what you did with the Daleks, make them seem like a threat, make them seem like this big deal again, like the Classic era, they were always really, they had a lot of respect for the Centaurans. Like pretty much there was I think like there were 3 stories, maybe I can't remember exactly 2 doctors. I'm pretty sure like the very first 2 Centauran stories, there were pretty much just only one Centauran, and then the first time that you actually saw an army of them was Invasion of Time. So, maybe just have one Centaur like they did in Sarah Jane. Who knows? I don't know. Let's bring back the Centaurs. Next up, and we're gonna be talking about some spin-offs here. I'm just gonna throw them out there because I haven't seen like Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood. I've seen like reactions to them, and I know the basic plots and stuff of most of the episodes, especially in like Sarah Jane. But two ones I got here: the Arcatinians, right? Nearly caught me there, and the fairies from Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures. I think they'd be pretty interesting to bring back. Maybe the Bane, if they could pull out some like more stories with the Bane, I think would be pretty interesting. But yeah, just some villains from the spin-off series I think would be really neat. Maybe even like the Shadowkin or something from Class 2 would be pretty cool. But yeah, maybe even like the Weevils. Who knows? Let's bring one from the spin-offs. I think that would be really interesting because we haven't seen villains from the spin-off in Doctor Who as like a main part of an episode yet. Maybe like we've had a cameo here or there, but never like a proper villain or a proper character or proper like part in the plot of an episode. So I think it would be pretty interesting to bring one of them in. But next up here, the last one from the classic series, and I think my main one from the classic series is the Ronnie. You could do some interesting stuff with the Ronnie. Obviously, we've had a lot of Master. We've had Sim, we had Missy. We have had a lot of Master. We just had a Master story, and like Quality's last one was a Master story. I think give the Master a break for a series, but don't do what you did in the Matt Smith era, where you just don't have any Time Lord villains. Bring in the Ronnie for her team, because female Time Lord, female Time Lord, it's set in stone. And it doesn't even have to be female, because the interesting thing here, you could have the Ronnie regenerate into a man, and then you could have it like in the classic series, the Doctor was a man, Ronnie was a woman. Now you could have a different dynamic of the Doctor being the woman, the Ronnie being the man. That would be really interesting. So yeah, and obviously, as I said, tired of the Master. Give us a different change of pace for the Ronnie. Obviously, with the Ronnie, you could also bring in some Time War stuff, which I don't think they even mentioned Gallifrey or the Time Lords in. I don't think the word Time Lord the phrase Time Lord was even said in Series 11, so I think it would be nice to have the Time War and all that stuff brought in, maybe at least as a mention of the Ronnie, because if the Ronnie's still alive or still, active in the universe, that would mean she either wasn't a part of the Time War, or like she doesn't know about the Time War, or she was in the Time War and she got out. You could do some interesting stuff there with the Ronnie. So I think it would be pretty smart to bring her back, and obviously, as I said, different change of pace. So instead of like, oh, she wants to conquer the universe or kill the Doctor or take over the universe, you could just have her do what she was doing in like Time of the Ronnie and Market Ronnie and stuff like that, or just give her like a new thing, like a new goal or something. But yeah, and obviously there isn't like the amicable love-hate relationship with the Master. Is fairly like a co-worker, basically. Is like kind of what like they're neighbors or something. They don't exactly care about each other. They don't care about the other's existence, but it's nice that they're there. And also, if the Master is indeed dead from like what happened in Doctor Falls, then that would I think it would be smart to just bring in the Ronnie. And I think besides the Sea Devils, the Ronnie is like the most obvious villain and character or whatever to bring back in a new series that they haven't done yet. Because as I said, they focused on the Master and the whole gimmick of like the Time Lords being dead and stuff. So yeah, but now that we know they aren't exactly dead, and also there's just the possibility of some of them just not being in the Time War in general. Finally here, we enter Series 11. Now, what Series 11 villains should come back? Well, I think the obvious one, and I think the main one, Robertson. And you're probably wondering why. Well, the thing is, Series 12 is going to be in 2020, right? Robertson and the U.S. elections are in 2020. He said he would be in the election. He would, go up to be president or whatever. So I have a story about him being the president. I think that would be pretty interesting. Or him running for president and doing some shady stuff. Like, I think it would be pretty interesting if, like, he had an episode where he was using some kind of like he redid the experiment with the spiders or something on like a different animal, or like he did something to influence him and allow him to win the elections and stuff like that. I think that would be pretty interesting. Yeah, that would be very interesting actually. And also, there's a rumor / leak / whatever of there being an episode based around MI6, and I don't think would make sense just to have an episode based around MI6 if you don't have some kind of like political spy thing going on. So I would assume they're like investigating what's happening with like Robertson and like the U.S. elections and stuff, because weird stuff is happening around the world, like whatever he's using, maybe even it would probably be like the opener or the finale is that episode. I think that's a good idea. Obviously, besides Robertson, who, by the way, I really don't like, but at the same time I really love, because he's just really fun. But the point of him is to bash Trump. So it's like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, why would you make the bad guy that you don't want people to like really likable? I don't get it. Anyway, because Trump, even if he's a bit crazy, even if he has some weird ideas, he's still really fun to watch just do whatever the heck he's doing on the news. His Twitter is lit. The man is a fun guy. So it doesn't, whatever. But besides Robertson, I can't really think of many. Obviously, the Stenza I think would be pretty cool to have like same thing with like the Centaurans and like the Daleks and stuff, where we've just seen one of them. I think it'd be pretty interesting to now that we've established them in the universe to have like an army of them come in, or like something like that. Multiple Stenzai come in and be the villains of an episode. I think that would be pretty interesting. I think that'd be because Tzim-Sha was bad, but like the concept of the Stenza is cool, and I think like an army of them would really do them justice, which is kind of the opposite in general with these villains, because like whenever you have one Dalek, it's really cool. When you have like billions of them, it's generally boring. So I don't know. But besides them, I can't really think of any other villains that okay, actually Krasko is another one I think would be cool, because Krasko was really bad in Rosa, but I'm holding out hope that there's a reason why he was so underdeveloped, is that later on we'll get more development on him in like series 12 or whenever, and we'll see like we'll go back to Rosa with like a different perspective, like, oh, that's why he's doing the things he's doing, because that's the whole gimmick, that he's like thousands of years in the future and he's just racist and killed like 2,000 black people. Just doesn't make sense. So I think it would be pretty interesting if it's like, actually he's not racist against black people, he's racist against aliens. And because of like civil rights starting up because of Rosa Parks and stuff, they did in the future there's like civil rights for like aliens and stuff, like alien like neighbors and stuff of humans, and like they did something to him, and then he killed a bunch of them, and then he got locked up, and he escaped, and it was like, okay, the whole civil rights, equal rights between different people, that gimmick started up with humans back in like Rosa Parks' time. So let me go back, stop Rosa Parks from doing what she's doing, because he can't kill her, and then that would just never catch on. I'm hoping that. And the whole like, I sent him back as far as I could. We don't know when exactly that is, but I would hope he would like show up in like more historical episodes, like, I don't know, the French Revolution. I think would be pretty interesting, where like he got sent back into the French Revolution, and like he's trying to stop them from doing the revolution. Yeah, Krasko is also one I think should come back. But yeah, I think that's it for this episode. For this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got some got some ideas for villains you want to come back and stuff like that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Troll on. Bye-bye.